Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to the 14th of July episode of the Beer Blades and Bushcraft Livestream. Tonight we're going to be talking about bucket lists, outdoorsy bucket list, paddling bucket list, bushcraft bucket list, tool bucket list. Is there a piece of the planet that you have always wanted to camp on? Let's talk about it. Hey there, Simone's here. How's it going? If there's a specific bushcraft knife you have always wanted, we can talk about that as well. If there's a canoe route you've always dreamed of trying. Bucket lists, man. I've got a lot of bucket lists. I don't have a lot. I have a couple of context-specific bucket lists. I have a bass guitar bucket list. I think I've mentioned that to you guys before. And then I have more of a general life experience bucket list. You know, things like I want to watch my daughter's graduate university. I want to see Morocco, stuff like that. Hey, Outdoor Dauber's here too. How's it going? Sorry, what I meant was, oh, hi Dauber. And I think I tried to do a bucket list episode a few months ago, but it got derailed pretty quick. So I want to stay sort of on target this time. I think the key to a bucket list is that doing everything on that list is not part of the plan. Like for me, I feel that if ever I tick off every box on a bucket list, I want that last box to have been ticked off on the last day of my life. Because once your bucket list is finished, what else is there? Well, you're just going to come up with another bucket list? No, bucket lists aren't something you just come up with out of the ether. You know, there's a magic to them because of that. I have tea. Tea's a good drink. I have a lot of water this time because it is hot. I don't know what the temperature actually is tonight, but it's funny because it felt fairly cool earlier today, but I know it's hot in this basement tonight. I got a beer. I have a Farnham Bitter, Farnham Ale and Lager Bitter Ale Britannique. So it's a bitter British ale. 473 mils, 5%. It doesn't get more standard Canadian than that. So I will pour that out into the glass right off the bat. And while I'm doing that, if anyone else is drinking anything interesting, some good beers or something, sound off in the side chat. So what the hell's Dauber doing on so early? Shouldn't you be putting your kids to bed or something? Brandon Cosman's here. Hey, first thing I'm going to put that on screen. That's not what I meant to do. Oh, that's dark. Hey, Hike with Mike is here. Okay, so Brandon says, first thing on my bucket list was the Fundy footpath, hoping to finally cross it off this fall. That's a good bucket list item to have. Part of the reason I'm asking about what you guys have as an outdoorsy bucket list item is because I realize that for all my love of the outdoors and my bushcrafty stuff and everything, I don't have a real basic bushcraft bucket list. I have a knives bucket list, which I did an entire blog post about last year, I think it was. I have an axe bucket list, which I've written most of a blog post about, and I haven't gotten back to it for months because there's no time. But there are things I want to do, but I don't have anything that's like a rock solid bucket list. And that's weird because I have bucket lists, for other things. I mean, and I've been asked before if doesn't having categories of bucket list kind of defeat the purpose of a bucket list? And I think maybe that's legit. What do you guys think? Should you only have one bucket list? Fit everything on there? Because to me, a bucket list is always should be things that I stand very little chance of achieving. Checking something off the bucket list should feel like wow, I did one of them, My bass guitar bucket list, I actually got one of them, which is the 40th birthday bass over there. But I have I feel that I have the beginnings of an outdoorsy / bushcrafty bucket list. One of the reasons that I shared with you guys that Zyla Foxlin, the Zyla Foxlin video of her and her uncle building that cedar strip canoe in Vermont is because I have a latent yet ardent desire to build a cedar strip canoe. I have had forever. And when I saw that video and I saw it coming together in a workshop, and she put a lot of work into the shooting and editing. So every shot was beautiful. And she did some close-ups on the plane work and stuff. And seeing that come together over the course of 20 minutes or however long the video took reminded me of how much I would love to do that. So if that would be one of the things on my sort of bushcrafty, outdoorsy, paddling bucket list. Oh, my sinuses are in full revolt tonight. Let me just scroll back because I realize I'm Hike with Mike. How's it going, sir? How are things down in Florida tonight? I bet you it's hot as the surface of the sun down there right now. Outdoor Dauber just had a St. Lawrence flat. I didn't know the St. Lawrence went that far. Oh yeah, that's nice and bitter. That's a British bitter, all right. For those of you who are just joining, Farnham Ale and Lager, British bitter, 473 mils, 5% alcohol. Tasty. Now I'm wondering if I've had this on screen before. It's a familiar taste. Sorry about that, guys. Figured a great big coughing fit I didn't want to have right into the mic. Hey, Tenenbaum's here. Tenenbaum, he with the fancy new canoe. Dauber's on vacation. The kids are playing video games. That's why you're on so late. That's so early. What? Everyone's just saying hi. Simon just sent me his bucket list pictures, which I will see if I have so many windows open on this screen. This is horrible. Let me close some of this stuff down, or at least minimization. There we go. Where the hell? I just want to see what Mr. Simon is showing us. That's not a bucket list. Those are plants that you're growing in buckets. Somebody explain to Simon what a bucket list is. Edward Dauber says, I'd really like to have a Scandinavian axe, 2.5 pound range with a 26 to 28 haft. Don't aim too high with your bucket list there, Outdoor. I wonder how big my Scandinavian forest axes are. My Wetterling Scandinavian forest axes. They sound like about that. Maybe not a 26 to 28 inch haft, though. Austin's here. How's it going? How's it going, Austin? How's it going, Mr. Corner? Austin, what we're talking about is outdoorsy bucket lists tonight. I want to hear from you guys what you guys have on your. I threw you guys in there way too often for a one sentence piece of my live stream. So sorry about that. I'd like to hear from you all what you may have on an outdoorsy bucket list, places that you are dreaming of hiking or camping or paddling. Maybe it's an equipment thing. I would really love a Northman hunting knife or something, Outdoor Dauber said he would like to have a Scandinavian axe, which I'm thinking, well, you don't need to bucket list something like that. You can probably, especially because Outdoor Dauber, he's the guy that everyone knows who will find like a $200 axe for like $25 in a garage sale or an estate sale. Like he'll come across the Norland, like, hey, how much for this? I don't know, $5. That's Outdoor Dauber. So when he's like bucket listing a Scandinavian axe, I'm thinking, don't aim too high there, buddy. Simone, this is good. Bucket list is pretty short or here lately. That's because you got no imagination, evidently. But one major item will be checked in 3 weeks. Vacation outside my home for the first time in 3 years. I think that's a nice thing to check off the list. For a long time, years, I didn't take a vacation. And I mean, because I was a freelancer for 20 years and things were never going quite good enough that I could take a break and, take 2 weeks not being paid. And so I didn't take a vacation. The first time I took a vacation was when I got back into the salaried life. Yeah. Just a few years ago. And so, yeah, Simo, I understand you perfectly. That's a nice step to take. Yeah, Mike. I was wondering if anyone was going to catch that. Okay, Tenenbaum says again the grams for Scandinavian forest axe is 26 inches or 1 kilogram. And I think the Wetterlings is about the same. I think that they're sort of, I think a Scandinavian forest axe is a Scandinavian forest axe in a lot of ways. They're all within the same range. Well, there aren't that many companies making them anymore. Oh, well, yeah, okay. That's a good one. Everyone check that out. I'd like to do the same, to be honest with you. Oh, here's something by Austin. I'd like to go and see the redwoods and the giant sequoias. It's funny because I have never seen them either, and I spent a lot of time in British Columbia, so it would have just been like, but I haven't seen them either, and I would love to. Absolutely. That one's way legit. I mean, I think that one's legit, but your bucket list is always legit. Even if I'm sort of ragging on poor Outdoor Dauber for aiming low and stuff, a bucket list is yours. It's not, you don't have to be embarrassed about it, and you don't have to take any crap from anyone over it. But yeah, I would like to see them too at some point. Now, the next thing Austin says here, I'd like to go on a unique and scenic hunt. For the longest time, just gotta get comfortable here. For the longest time, and I would still do this. I wanted to go on a safari. I wanted to like win $1 million, spend like a few tens of grands on getting a Holland in Holland 375, and going on like a hunt in whatever, South Africa or somewhere, savannah-esque. Never wanted to shoot lions, never wanted to shoot elephants. I don't want to do all of the big five or any of the cats. Just simple, like, kudu and stuff like that. Because one thing that is absolutely on my bucket list is that I have always wanted to see Africa. I've always wanted to see Morocco, and I've always wanted to see sort of down the savannah and all that kind of area. So it's not about getting, I think what is it, the big five, right? There's elephant, lion, there's another cat, there's, kudu, and I don't remember because I haven't really looked into this in years. But here's the thing, I would take more of a bushcraft trip as well, happily. I watch a lot of Ray Mears, as you guys know, and he's done a few episodes down in like around the savannah and stuff, and I'm just enchanted by these episodes. I want to see that part of the world more than I want to shoot anything in that part of the world. I would love to have the Holland in Holland, but you know, that's not the more important part of that bucket list item. Yeah, sorry, Dauber. We're just, you know, qui t'aime bien, châtie bien, as we say. We're ragging on you because we love you, man. Okay, yeah, Austin, it's funny because you just said the same thing. I'm not looking at the side chat as often as maybe I should be. Tenenbaum, every time Tenenbaum comes into the conversation, he adds something, man. Look at this. He recommends Muir Woods if we can make it to San Francisco. I'm going to write that down. So if I ever get around there, I'll take a look. Muir Woods. Because what I'm going to do is after the live stream, I'll look it up. Right. See what it... Okay. That's written down. Oh, yeah. Hike with Mike. I would love to see Alaska. Well, I would be perfectly happy seeing the Yukon, to be straight with you. I would love to see the North. I was just talking about this earlier tonight. My wife was talking about a friend of hers or someone she knows, his daughter, I think, who was sent to the North, to Nunavut. She works for the federal government, and she was sent on a 5-year contract to Nunavut. And I would love, like in June, I would love to see the North. Maybe not February, but even then, I mean, I'm enchanted by by the extremes on our planet. I'm enchanted by the North, not so much by Antarctica. But if you offered me an Antarctic sort of cruise on a survey vessel or something, I would totally go. But, you know, I'm also enchanted by the African savanna, a little bit by the Sahara as well, just because that's about as alien to my experience as you can get. One year, I went to visit my fiddler in Alberta and then my dad in the Okanagan. And this, I think, was my first time visiting both of them. Well, my dad in the Okanagan. Before that, he had lived in North Vancouver. And so Peter, the fiddler, took me to like Drumheller, which is a desert. And where my dad lives in the Okanagan, in the southern Okanagan, it's also a pocket desert. And I had never seen any kind of desert before this trip. And I was, man, Drumheller knocked me on my arse. I was like, what? And I kind of had the same reaction, like when, do you guys remember last November to December, I put up, I think, a 3-episode series, like a travel log of Nevada and Arizona, because my wife ran the half marathon in Las Vegas. I hated Las Vegas, as I said in the video. I think if that city was swallowed up by the sand, the world would not lose anything. But the landscape around it is spectacular. Spectacular. But yeah. So yeah, my Alaska is probably like the diametric opposite of most of your sort of life experience down there in Florida, right? But yeah, beautiful. Probably well worth a visit. Quebec Homestead, I think, didn't she live in Alaska for a while, or did she visit? I know that she lived in the States for a while. I'm getting behind here. Sorry, guys. Simone says, tool-wise, fairly covered. There's a few things I'd like, but I can get by without. Yeah, but Simone, improving your English, your programming skills, and your ham radio license, those are all things that are well within your wherewithal. I mean, I know you fairly well at this point, and all of those, I don't see being much of a problem for you. That'll be like the easiest bucket list ever. Hey, Wander's here. How's it going? How's it going? Yeah, I'm not sure if you picked up on this, Mr. Ranger, but we're talking about people's outdoorsy bucket lists, whether it's an experience, a place, or an item. Just sort of bouncing some ideas around. I'm just seeing if I'm caught up here. Yeah, Austin, you are on a roll tonight. You'd like to go walking Scotch through the Bothies with your friend Neil. Yeah, I have some family in Scotland who I've never met and don't know at all. But my mother did some family tree work because my grandmother, I had a Scottish grandmother. I'm from Dundee, but I've never been to Scotland. I would love to do a Scotch tour because I'm very into whiskey. I would like to just see that part of the British Isles. And I'd like to check that area out too. Brandon, canoe river that flows into James Bay. There's a bunch of them to choose from. So you can do that from one of two provinces too. But yeah, because then, I mean, I would love to try that too. You're up in the north. You're paddling through some glorious country. Yeah, I would like that too. Part of the reason I'm thinking about this is because I'm going to be 50 in 2 years, and I want to do something for that. I want to do something big for that. I don't know if I'll be able to pull this off, but I would like to, I don't know, walk across Iceland or paddle the Yukon River, or something that is big that I can YouTube and blog about, and that I can spend the next 2 years getting into shape for, and blogging or YouTubing about that as well. Make it a medium term project. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm getting set up for it now. And I realized that I don't have a dedicated bucket list for experiences like that. They're just things that, I'd really like to try one day. And that maybe if I had an organized bucket list, I would pick something off of that. Because I don't have it, I can't do that, Yeah, Brandon. Good old the Yukon. I'd love it. I have my stepbrother used to live in the Northwest Territories in Yellowknife. Doesn't seem quite the same as around like Whitehorse and stuff like that. I want to stand up north, staring at the northern lights, and breathe in that air. I want to stand on the tundra. I want to reach down and feel, the mosses and the lichens and the little things that grow up there. I want to feel that, and yeah, I definitely want to experience that one day. Oh, so good. So we got Austin wants to take a walk through the Scottish Highlands. We got Brandon, who's got a whole bunch of things that he would like to do, which is good. I like it when people can dream. I like it when people are in touch with a little healthy fantasy, a little sort of, man, I'd like to do that one day. Maybe get a little wistful, and maybe plan and do some of it one day. People who don't even think, don't dream. That's too sad. Hi, with Mike's in touch with where he likes to be. He says so many beautiful places to see, but the southern swamps are my favorite place to be. Simone is summing up the north nicely. Hey, Fox, it's here. How's it going? He's saying hi to everybody. Oops, I just lost my place. Winder is with the Alaska crowd. He definitely wants to go to Alaska. It's pretty far from where you live. I imagine that it is everything I see about Alaska tells me that I would love to be standing there someday. That's for sure. Yeah, Simone, Quebec Homestead does have dual citizenship, I think. Fox, it would like to do the Appalachian Trail or the Appalachian Trail, depending on where y'all live. I would love to through hike at some point. That's a long, hard ruck, but people do it. I like the concept of deciding to do something that is going to test you massively, and then getting through it. I didn't grow up doing that very much. I have a real appreciation for it nowadays, but yeah. Austin's out of here. Okay. Good night, Austin. Everyone say bye to Austin. Tenenbaum says the Nahanni River. I'd like to try that too. Nifty Paddler. Hey, you'll be 30 next year. I had this crazy idea where I paddled from my home near Trenton to your cottage in Alexandra Bay, New York. Stop in Kingston for Canada Day and Alexandria Bay for 4th of July. How many kilometers is that, Nifty? Like, I mean, I know where Trenton is, but I don't know where Alexandria Bay, New York is. That sounds like a nice long paddle, though. I think that's a good one. But yeah, how many clicks is that? Steve Bobbillin? Steve, oh, sorry, Steve. I just want to go canoeing, but I'm stuck in the middle of the Pacific. That would probably like that. Where are you? Don't give me your exact address or anything, but just like, are you in Hawaii and Palau? Like, whereabouts are you? Hi, good, Mike. I have seen the film. I think I started the book, I guess, an audiobook when I was, driving to the office and back, but I haven't driven to the office and back in months. So my podcasts and audiobooks have sort of been left untouched. Jackie is dreaming of Temagami. A lot of people do. I haven't seen any of that part of Canada, any of it. I want to see Northern Ontario. I want to see some of the YouTubers I know who live sort of in Central and Northern Ontario. I want to see some of the YouTubers I know who live in Southern Ontario. I want to go paddling with. Here's who I want to go paddling. Maybe that's what I should do. I should have a YouTuber bucket list. I want to go paddling with Pine Martin, absolutely. Nate Muskoka, absolutely. Canoe Hound Adventures, absolutely. I would love to go paddling with Joe Robinette at some point. That would be an interesting call. Hey, Joe, you want to take me paddling? Crickets. He'd probably answer, actually, but I remember Joe saying on a live stream at something one day that he doesn't want to be a guide for anyone. So if you're gonna go, he wants you to have some. He wants you to have the chops, you know. And I respect that. I respect that. If I was someone at Joe's level, um, and someone at my level just called up or whatever and said, "Hey, I want to go paddling with you," I would be like, "Let's just make sure you know what you're doing first." Um, I'm just going to scroll down and try to catch up. Oh God, I'm sorry, guys. I'm really slow. Tyler's here. Man, Jackie's here. Tyler's here. Winder's here. Hike with Mike. Everyone's here, and there's some fairly new people here tonight. Nifty Paddler is on. Steve Bobilin. Welcome to both of you. I don't know if I've seen you on here before, or if you're just not around very often, but I'm glad to see your names in the side chat. Absolutely. And hey, you know what? Here's something I forgot to do. I'm going to drop the invite into the side chat. If you guys have a camera and you want to come on and talk about your bucket listy things, stay on subject. We're talking about outdoorsy bucket list items, whether that's an equipment thing or an experience. And if you do come on, please wear headphones so that you don't cause an echo. So there you go. It's open to, oops, sorry guys. I bet you that sounded big. It's open to anyone who wants to come on and talk about outdoorsy bucket listy things. Winder says, I have also been wanting to drive the Aachen Highway, but I hear it's a rough road and hard on vehicles. I don't even know that highway. I will say, hold on a second. Sorry about that. I will say that a quasi bucket listy thing is I would like to either have the new Land Rover Defender or the the Jeep Renegade, something like that, where I'm not where a bumpy ass ride doesn't bother me. It just becomes part of the fun of being in a car designed for that kind of thing. But there's some money attached to that I am not in the position to spend. Jackie, you and I, man, you and me both, the North, absolutely, since I was a kid. Hike with Mike. So that's how you ended up in Alaska. Funny. I love it. Okay, so nifty. It's 162 kilometers. That's a good long paddle. That's if you ever do that, you need to YouTube it or blog it or something, because that's the kind of trip that people are just going to follow with, Steve is stuck kayaking, but you want to go canoe camping. You might have to go to BWCA instead of Canada. BWCA. I will figure this out. BWCA. I'll figure it out at some point. So I guess you're doing sea kayaking if you're stuck in the middle of the Pacific? Oh, I see. Okay, so you figured it out using Google Earth. Okay. I mean, what you need to find out now, I guess, is are there any areas in that little route that you mapped out that are actually impassable? Because the last thing I think you want to do is find out, sitting there in your canoe, with a dam or something in front of you, right? Oh, you're in Hawaii. Okay. There's someone else who hangs on a fair amount of time who's also in Hawaii. Hey, how's it going? I think you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. I can now hear you. Just pump up your volume, and all will be well. For the rest of you, same deal. If you want to come on and talk about your outdoorsy bucket list items, feel free. StreamYard now allows up to 10 people on, but I haven't done 10 people, but I hear it's a bit of a shift show, shall we say.
Well, I'm here in Hawaii.
Are you on how many islands are Hawaii is how many islands really? Like the sort of the
About
big one.
8 islands altogether. There's about 8 islands altogether. Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay. So are you on one of the bigger ones, or are you sort of out in the periphery somewhere?
There's a terrible delay, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely delaying. Simo, when he comes on, sometimes delays. Simo, do you have any words of wisdom about that? Oh, so good. I'm just taking a look at the side chat here. Simo, yeah, he's bringing up the Appalachian Trail as well.
I'm just more interested in going to Canada and going canoeing in Canada because I'm more interested in the boreal forest and doing canoe camping.
Mm-hmm. The boreal is definitely my favorite part of the Earth. It is forest, unlike. Well, I mean, you live in some very unique landscape as well. So I've never been down there, but what I mean is, in terms of the kind of forests of North America that I've been in, the boreal has a smell and an energy and a flavor to it that no matter how often I go, and I don't go that often anymore, but how often I go, it's exciting just to be in the boreal. You know, part of that is just the physicality of being there, because it does absolutely feel and smell and everything different than any other forest I've ever been in. Part of it is, I
I would love
think,
to talk more, but I think I'm going to log out and try logging back in again because this delay is so difficult that I can't really pay attention to what I'm saying. I just keep hearing an echo. It's about 30 seconds
30
behind.
seconds. Okay.
Yeah, it's way off. So I'm going
All
to
right.
leave and come back in.
Yep, sure. Works for me. I'm just taking another look at the side chat here. Adam Romano is here. That's good to see. The Alaskan Highway, yeah. I'm at the end of the. Any better?
I think that's better.
That definitely sounds better from my end.
I think the problem is that I had the other window open that had you live, and there is a delay of some sort. So now I just turned that off, and I'm good.
Yeah, there's a delay between streams stopped trying to watch on YouTube.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Anyway,
That's fine.
so yeah, so I live here in Hawaii. There's about 8 islands. I've been to most of them, but in it's canoe. It's you can't go canoeing really in the ocean. Well, I guess you can, but it's all kayaks around here. So
Right, like
um,
ocean kayaking.
yeah, so I bought a cheap kayak, and I've been trying to get out. But mostly, I bought the kayak in order to get into shape so I can go canoeing in Canada or the Boundary Waters canoe area, which is what
Oh, that's what
Boundary Waters.
BWCA is. Okay.
Ah,
Yep. Okay, that
like
works.
that in Minnesota. Where do you
Yep.
live?
I'm in Quebec.
Oh, you're in Quebec.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm in Montreal. Which, so the boreal that I've been to is in Quebec. It's the same as Ontario or whatever, but I live about a 5-ish hour drive from the Saguenay, which is spectacular. There's a fjord there that's 160 odd kilometers long,
Really?
And only the last 60 kilometers of it is not salt water. It's like everything in the Saguenay is of epic size.
Wow.
I want to say hi to Cool Quest, who's just joining us. Nice to see you. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. But I feel that for sort of the epic lakes and rivers, like the Rainiers experience, you got to kind of hit Northern Ontario. You know, um, it's a lot easier to find crown land in Ontario than it is in Quebec. And you know what? If you really want sort of the true canoe camping experience, you want to be on crown land. You know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the YouTube videos about Crown Land, Kevin Callan,
Mm-hmm.
those guys camping on Crown Land. The only thing about it is if you're coming from out of town or out of country, then you'd have to have an outfitter, right? And rent something.
I don't know if you
So,
need an outfitter or if you just need a permit. I'm not entirely sure about that, and I wish Kevin was on tonight because he or do you know Pine Martin?
yes.
Those guys know everything, and they're very very generous with their knowledge. Um, they're not always on. I mean, they might actually both be in the woods right now.
I'm just saying that if you don't live in Canada
Yeah,
or thereabouts and you don't have a canoe and you don't have any you don't want to you're coming from another place like traveling from California say
yeah,
and you don't want to carry your tent and your canoe and everything like that. And so you
yeah,
have to
yeah,
have an
yeah.
outfitter. So Crownland might be out of the question for people coming from uh, outside of Canada. Also, um, if you're coming if you're a resident of Canada, then you can go into Crown Land and it's free, right?
Yep.
But if you're from outside, then you have to pay a fee to go into Crown Land to get a permit.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think the fee is that big.
Hmm.
There's a guy who's fairly off and on who unfortunately isn't with us yet tonight. Avid outdoorsy guy, and he comes north. He's in the States, but he comes north for canoe camping a lot. And I would love to pick his brains about that at one point because I don't ever have to think about that, right?
Do you ever go to La Verdine? I don't know how to pronounce
La,
it.
La Vérandrie, not for
La
a really
Vérendrye.
long time, but yeah, that's La Vérandrie.
There's a new a Facebook uh, group for paddling there.
Is there? Okay, just let me take note of that.
Yeah, some of these YouTube chats have been very nice because people come on like Pine Martin, like Kevin Callan, like all of those people, and then I can Google them and find out their YouTube channels and
Yeah.
see what they've done and learn new information about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you ever end up going canoe camping in Ontario, Kevin Callan literally wrote the books on it,
Yeah, he's
right?
great,
You
and
know,
I bought one of his books. I got the new book of paddling Algonquin, and so that's pretty good. They're
the one
pretty
that
good.
he just released, was it Once
Yeah,
Around
the one.
Algonquin? Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
have that one yet.
it's the newer one. I think they have a few new routes on there, but other than that, it's probably pretty much the same.
Hmm.
The other site
Um,
I've seen that is really useful is paddling. Let's see what it's called. Paddle planner. Paddle planner, and it's got interactive maps for um, Algonquin, Apostle Islands, Everglades, Boundary Waters, Canoe Area, Quetico, Sylvania. There's a whole bunch.
this is paddleplanner.com, I guess.
Paddleplanner.com, yeah, and they have interactive maps. There's a free thing, but you can pay to get like a where you can plot out your whole plan. But
Right.
there's a free site you can download stuff that you can embed into Google Maps and into
Okay.
Google Earth. So it's quite nice.
I just wanted to point out that there are some people answering us in the side chat here. What Tenenbaum, I'm just going to put everything up on the screen below us here. Okay. So Tenenbaum says, as a non-Ontario resident, you can pay a fee. You do not need an outfitter, but an outfitter is one way to avoid paying the fee. Obviously, you're going to pay an outfitter more than the fee, but the outfitter does come with gear, right?
Right.
You don't have to transport a canoe if you go through an outfitter. So I think doing sort of the balance, outfitter fully equipped versus renting a canoe and a tent or a hammock and blah and your permit and blah, whichever one sort of ends up on the plus side is the one you go with, I guess. I'm just seeing what else. Simon says, to his knowledge, Crown Land access in Canada is open everywhere. However, I would strongly recommend getting a guide for the first adventures, and I would do that too. If I wouldn't go into Crown Land by myself. I wouldn't go into Crown Land camping by myself until I'm very, very experienced, I think. I'm just sort of seeing.
I've been enjoying watching Camper Christina.
She knows her stuff, man. That's a good channel. That is a very good channel. I would love to have her on one of my interviews at some point
She's so
because,
great. She's self-effacing and just real. She's so
yeah,
genuine.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Her stuff is a-okay in my book. Hey, Canoe Hunt Adventures is here. How's it going, Dennis? We're discussing outdoorsy bucket listy stuff tonight. Tenenbaum to the rescue again. So for the permit, the cost is $9.35 plus tax per person per night right now for overnight camping in Crown Land. That's actually not a lot of money. But I feel that the knowledge that a good guide brings to the table is worth the expense, for me anyway, because I don't feel that I'm an outdoors dilettante, but I do feel like someone who has for years not been able to get out as often as he used to, and so a lot of the stuff I used to be able to do, I kind of have to get back into shape for.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been trying to do these kind of exercises. I don't know what happened to Chris Prouse and Julia, but I guess they're taking a long break from the coronavirus. But she posted a video. I think that was the last one they posted, was about how to make a weight and pulley rowing machine.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So I built one in my garage. It's great.
You did it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So
it's different than kayak paddling. The muscles are different. It's totally different using a double paddle versus a single paddle. So I don't know. I just have to. I've only gone to Algonquin once, so
okay.
And it was a very long time ago, so I have to really get back into shape. Same
Yeah.
as you.
Ever since the COVID struck, I don't know how many pounds I've put on. It's. I just want to say to Tenenbaum, Jackie Blanchard is asking for a link for the Crown Land permits. So wherever you found that information, if you could just drop it into the private chat. No, you can't do that. See if you can find a way to drop it into the comments.
I think you can put a link right into the comments, but you can't put.
Yeah, I don't remember how it, if they're, because like in YouTube they've got all these silly little limitations, but I don't know about StreamYard. I also want to say that Dennis says here, if I may pipe in, it all depends on where the Crown Land is. There are many Crown Land areas in Ontario to paddle where you can actually have phone access, and Crown Land camping on Ontario is free. I'm just taking a look here. People are saying hi. Hey, up north of 60s here, Mister. I've been watching your live streams as often as I can. I know I was a little more vocal one or two of them ago than I usually am, but whenever I got some time, and Dennis is not. This is horrible. Tuesday nights, Dennis is taking a break for the rest of for until his next season, but Dennis is on. Up North of 60 is on, and then I'm on. And by the time I get the kids to fed and to bed and everything, like I've been able to watch 20 minutes of whoever's on before me. And I say it's terrible that we're all on the same night because I want both of those guys on my panel discussions one day. Dennis, I may jig my panel discussions around so that I can have one with you on it before your season picks up again next year. Now, Dennis also says, but here's the thing, Dennis. Steve is not in Canada. He's not Canadian or an Ontario resident.
But I wish I was.
Wow, it's a great country to move to. That's for sure. They may reopen the border someday. They may reopen the border someday.
I'm healthy.
Yeah. Oh, Tenenbaum says that he used to guide trips in Temagami. Okay, so Tenenbaum knows everything, by the way. If you got questions, Dennis knows a lot. Tenenbaum knows a lot.
Anyone go to the changing of the seasons in Temagami kind of ceremony?
I haven't. I didn't even know about it.
But I live in Hawaii and I know about it.
Zing. Touche. Just taking a look. Yeah, Jackie says, and I've totally lost track of what day it is during this COVID. Yeah, every day is Monday, okay? Just looking. Yeah, we're pretty much caught up. So for you, that's a bucket list thing, right? Canoeing the Canadian magic. For me, I have a bucket list item that I know I will not do because of a phobia I have. I would love to camp in the Grand Canyon, and Pine Martin has done that. But here's the thing: to get down to the campsites, you have to go down like this donkey trail along the side of the canyon. And I have a very hugely debilitating fear of heights. So I don't think I can do that part. Yeah, and it's like he says that if people are trying to pass each other on this trail, it's very, very tight. And there's sort of a rule whereby the people coming up are supposed to get the inside half and the people going down are supposed to be on the outside because the people coming up are presumably bushed, right? Because it's a long ass climb down and it's a long ass climb up. But that not everyone does it, and sometimes there's some Yahoo coming up or going down with, like the sleeping pad rolled up on his rucksack that extends way out, and apparently it can get really awkward at that point. And all this stuff is why I don't think I'll ever do it. And he says that when you go there to, you show up at the office and saying, yeah, we're going to be camping down at the bottom, they sort of take you aside and they do whatever they can to dissuade you from doing this to make sure that you are a very experienced climber because it's very, very dangerous. So I'm kind of okay with that not being something I'm going to check off.
It's kind of like I'm very afraid of getting buried alive. Ever since that incident at the beach where we found an old turtle cave in the sand and we dug it out and there was 3 of us in there and we put little candles to make it nice and pretty inside and then the entire cave of sand collapsed and we were all buried alive and we had to dig our way out and we were so freaked out and ever since then I haven't been able to watch movies like The Great Escape and things where they try to tunnel out from underneath things.
Yeah, that stuff
Yeah,
freaks me out as
I kind
well.
of have a hard time just going in underneath the kitchen sink to replace the plumbing, but I can handle that.
Yeah, yeah, I can, yeah. Um, Closed in spaces are rough for me as well. Dennis is headed to Temagami next week. He leaves this Friday night. Oh, that's too bad, Dennis, because I've got an interview next week that I'm very excited about. Oh well, you can watch it when you get back. In honor of the fact that there's a few new people on in the side chat and on screen who I haven't had on either very often or at all, I'm opening a second beer. It's too bad that Serge isn't here because he would absolutely be making fun of the head I'm getting on this beer right now. Um, just let's sort of catch up. Oh, Simon has been posting links to various provinces' crown land sites. That's good. You can almost pick what you done. Ontario, Quebec. Did I see Alberta as well? Simon's a good. He's a good resource to have around here. Ontario, yeah. And he says that his last comment to Jackie applies to you too, Steve. This is a link to the Ontario Crown Land Use Policy Atlas.
Right, I think I got
These
that.
these use policy atlases are not really made for campers and hunters. Okay, they're made for resource people. But if you can figure out how to read them, you'll see where you can get access to crown land and stuff.
It's actually great. I'm totally into maps, and so I have lots and lots of maps bookmarked. So that's great. Thanks.
Nice, nice. Can I ask who am I gonna miss? I'll text you later. But I'm very excited for next week. I'm gonna be putting up a thumbnail probably tonight or tomorrow. Um, I'm into maps in kind of a geeky kind of geography is cool kind of way. But when I'm trying to make heads or tails of like a resource map to try and find the access to crown land, I get frustrated really easily. Um, One of my bucket list items is to write a book about accessing crown land in Quebec, like pulling a Kevin Callan, but Quebec instead of Ontario. Steve, I don't know how long you've known about me at all, but I used to be a writer. I used to work in editorial,
Uh-huh.
in publishing. Um, I worked for some small houses. I worked for Reader's Digest. I worked for a couple of very large Canadian magazines. And so to me, plans for the future always included writing, a book or something. I've got all kinds of stuff. I've been published in all kinds of areas. But I mean, like we're talking 30 years ago now, 20, more like 20-ish years. Um, Now I work as a tech writer because I needed stability. But, I would still love to write one of those resource books at some point because those books are, you're not just putting out a work of fiction, right? These books are loved by people who want to do this stuff. A good resource book like that, like Kevin Callan's, a guide to the lost canoe routes or lost portages or whatever it is. These are books where people buy them to dream or buy them to plan a trip. And they pore over them and they get the information they need. And if they pay attention, they have a terrific trip. So why the hell wouldn't I want to write one of these? You have a hands-on experience of helping to ensure that people have a fabulous time in your province.
It's funny. I was coming out of what happened for me was that in 1977 I went to Algonquin Park and I went canoeing and never thought about it because this group of people planned it for us, and I don't know how they got the canoes, I don't know how they got the food, but they planned it all out. It was like a 10-day trip, and it was great, and it was like one of the best things I ever did in my life. And many years went by, and then one day when I was on YouTube, I said, "Oh, I should look for Algonquin and see what comes up."
Mm-hmm.
And up came Chris Prouse and their videos, and so I started looking at them. And then the coronavirus hit, and I started planning to take a trip to Algonquin, and I started watching all these different because of the coronavirus, everybody was getting on Zoom. Or what is this called? This is called StreamYard.
StreamYard, yeah.
StreamYard.
Which
And
reminds me, I'm putting the invite up again, guys, for anyone else who wants to join.
So I saw that there's, and so when people were doing these chats, I saw, canoe hounds, and I saw um, different sites, Cool Quest, all those folks,
Yep.
and it was fantastic. And then I started linking them while I was watching the different Zoom chats,
Yep.
and um, it was great. So it was a good way to get some resources and figure out what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed there was a sort of the categories of different. There was survivalist people,
Yep.
and bushcraft people,
Yep.
and canoeing people, and paddling people, and so there was, and camping, and so there was different things, and so there's different categories of bushcraft versus survivalist and preppers and all these different kind of things. So
Yep. Yeah,
interesting.
and I mean, I come from a bushcraft philosophy rather than a prepper or a survivalist philosophy. And like you, I haven't paddled in 25 years. Last time I paddled, maybe even longer than that ago. I was in the it was with a group, an air cadet group. And I recently, just last year or the year before, took my daughter on a canoe, like just a little day trip around a bay where we were staying on Georgian Bay. It was her first time in a canoe and my first time in years and years and years. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this. I'm getting a canoe. I don't care how I do it, but I'm getting a canoe.
Awesome.
Because this is...
Looks like we have a new friend.
Yeah, hey.
Good
How's
evening.
it going, Tenenbaum?
Oh, pretty well. How are you?
Not too bad. Steve, Tenenbaum actually just received a beautiful new canoe.
Oh, that's great. Can hardly hear you though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can get the volume up any higher on this microphone, unfortunately.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Steve, you're actually a little quiet though. Maybe your volumes are down.
Oh, sorry. Is that better now?
Yeah, that's good. You were pretty good before, but you were a little low. But yeah, that's good. But yeah, Tannenbaum he's got a new canoe. I'm just waiting for the canoe.
What kind of canoe did you get?
It is a Novacraft Prospector. 16.
Ah. That's
Yeah,
the kind that Kevin Callan likes, right?
Yeah, he's the Novacraft guy.
Yeah, Kevin Callan's very much a Novacraft guy. Isn't Kemper Christina also a Novacraft person?
She's been working with a couple different companies.
She got a new green canoe, right?
Yeah. She did just get something new.
I forgot what company it was. I think it might have been a small company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
H2O Canoes.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for... Yes, absolutely. Sorry, yeah. It's like when you're looking at paddlers on YouTube, it's easy to think that the only two companies in the world are Swift and Novacraft, right? Because YouTubers always sort of tend to, they congregate. I would take either a Swift or a Novacraft in a Montreal minute. I think
in Ontario, those are the two biggies. I mean,
yeah,
they've got probably 70% of production, but there are certainly many other alternatives, and there are good ones as well.
I think I'm not sure, but I'll check this afterwards. But I'm wondering if the canoe I used on that trip a year or two ago, like where I did the video where it's my daughter's first trip on a canoe, I wonder if that was an H2O. because it was something where I had seen the logo before somewhere, so like likely on YouTube or something. But yeah, that's the, you guys want to talk about bucket list. My bucket list right now is all about getting a canoe, getting a PFD, canoe camping a lot. Oh yeah, you know what? Dennis here says it's H2O for Camper Christina. Yeah. Hey, Black Dog, how's it going? And he's also saying that it's Black Dog for that it's H2O for Camper Christina. Oh, Nifty Paddler has a Novacraft Prospector 16 as well. Best investment ever. Nice. It's funny because when I started thinking about adding a canoe to my future plans, I just automatically said, well, it's got to be a Swift, right? But the more I look at these Novacraft everywhere, the more I'm thinking, well, it can be either one of those because these are both beautiful boats. I've looked into Swift for a couple of years now, so it's sort of, I still knee jerk towards that, but
if at all possible, try before you buy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
I've heard that several times, that it's better to just test it out and see what it's like.
Yeah.
See if you fall out.
Well, here's the thing. I have to save up for the damn thing, so it ain't gonna happen next year. But what I can do is Kijiji a canoe, like a standing canoe. I have the wifely permission to buy like a canoe just to paddle around with, get the family into the swing of paddling and stuff.
Another possibility is you can talk to Mountain Equipment Co-op in Montreal because they have canoe lending programs.
And they have Novacraft, don't they?
Novacraft from them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Provided Mountain Equipment Co-op's, still around.
I think chances are good.
Yeah.
Where in Quebec do you want to go canoeing?
Well, it's funny because my mother-in-law lives on Lake of Two Mountains in Oka, and that's kind of where I want to take my daughter out to practice, because Lake of Two Mountains is like shallow and shallow and shallow, shallow and shallow and shallow and shallow and shallow and deep, right? So you can go forever, and if you fall out of the canoe, you're like waist deep in water. That's where I want the first many times being in a canoe with my kid on board. That's where that's got to be for me. In terms of just doing canoe camping, dude, I want to do I want to do the Ontario big hits, right? I want to do Temagami. I want to do Algonquin. I want to do, well, it's funny because the more I talk to like Kevin and Dennis and I want to do like Quetico, but the more I talk to these guys and Kevin, the more I kind of want to shy away from the big hit parks and just go into the Crown Land, where I don't have to, where there isn't a shortage of firewood because the place has been crowded, and where
if you're going to go to Algonquin, my advice is to try to go off season and not on the weekend.
Like midway through the week in like October
or late August or September. I mean,
I'm planning to go not this September, but the following September, the middle of September, well after Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, all the bugs will be gone by then, and it will be not so crowded by then.
Well, what's good about that is that, yes, you're absolutely right, but it's still nice out. Like once you hit,
you might try to go to Algonquin. I'm sorry.
No.
You get the best of all worlds because
it's
beautiful. There aren't bugs. Maybe it's a little cool at night, but other than that, it's perfect.
Oh, but I love that, man. I love that. To me, camping in like September, October. First of all, fall is my favorite season. Absolutely. I love how it can still be kind of warm in the day, or maybe you need a little jacket or whatever. But man, the nights are crisp. Where you smell the air and it kind of feels like like the skin on a snare drum. There's like a
you just have to make
brittleness.
Sure sleeping bag for it. So
yeah, you do. Absolutely. I love what Dennis says about my plan to buy one of these canoes through savings rather than credit. Yeah. Jackie is looking for a cheap canoe or a couple of kayaks next year. Yeah. I'm gonna Kijiji an affordable ass canoe just to sort of paddle around on until it's go time on one of the big purchases. Hey, Alain's here. Comment va, monsieur? Alain, for those of you who do not know, Alain has an Instagram page you have to take a look at. Man, he's a bit of a birder. He takes bird pictures and wildlife pictures that I just can't stop looking at. Alain, could you drop your Instagram in the side chat if possible, or send it to Simon and he can post it?
How old is your daughter that you want to take camping?
She's 8 until the 1st of August, at which point she's decided to turn 9. We've been camping a lot. She's essentially she's like a part-time co-host on my channel. We've been camping together a fair amount. No, we've been camping together before a few times, including last year, I think it was. We did just a father-daughter the first weekend of September at a SIPAC near Montreal. It was a great trip. We've recently come into a smaller tent than that big behemoth through the agency of. I mean, anyone who's been around here for long enough knows that Tenenbaum gave me I was about to say a fucking fantabulous tent, but I can't say that online. A fabulous tent.
Can't say that.
I just can't do that. So I wanted to see if we could repeat that weekend with the smaller tent, but I don't. We're not. We just knee-jerk rid off our entire summer's plans. We're doing a family glamping trip in mid-August near Montebello, Quebec, at a SIPAC somewhere near Montebello. I don't bloody remember the name of it. Sorry, Steve. SIPAC is what the hell do you guys? It's the national parks, the Quebec Provincial Park Network. National park in air quotes.
To the extent that Quebec is a nation, it's a national park.
Yes. In fact, thanks to Stephen Harper, Quebec is officially a nation within the country of Canada. So suddenly it's okay to use national for. I mean, that's political. And I'm not getting
provincial parks and national parks.
Well, official national parks are run by the federal government, whereas provincial parks are like state parks. They're run by the provincial governments. Let me just sort of see if we're missing anyone here or anything in the side chat.
Anybody go to Les Refuges Perchés Mont-Tremblant?
Not recently, but I've been to Mont Tremblant a lot. I know people with cabins there.
Is that an expensive place to go? That's an area that's a resort area.
I can guarantee you that I will never be able to afford a chalet there.
The rental prices right now are extremely low.
Yeah, right now it's probably very affordable to rent a weekend there. Because Nifty Paddler says the brand is the least important thing to consider. Most important is getting on the water by any means possible. That's just my opinion, and that is why I'm Kijijiing whatever bloody canoe I can find.
Yeah,
in the meantime. Outdoor Dauber, I don't know if he's still here. He's got one of those Grumman aluminium. In some ways that's like a seminal canoe in canoe history, right?
I still have my most kilometers paddled in a Grumman 17-foot, and it's perfectly serviceable canoe.
Everyone's been in one.
It is, you cannot hurt it. It is indestructible.
I think that's what I used when I went to Algonquin the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And last time.
Yeah, everyone's been in one. Everyone's seen them. Last time I was in the Okanagan, the block over from where my dad lives, there was this beat to spit old Jeep with a Grumman aluminium canoe like permanently strapped on the roof. Okay, and when I say this Jeep was beat to spit, I'm trying to be polite here because trying to get remonetized. But I mean, man, it's a miracle that the windows were still intact, right? This guy obviously used his Jeep hard. He obviously used his Grumman hard because it was scuffed, but it's a Grumman, so it wasn't broken anywhere. And like my dad and I kept driving past, and I kept saying, I've got to stop and take a picture of this canoe on this beat to crap car and send it to one of my subs. And the day we finally had time, like we weren't like rushing to the beer store or the supermarché before it closed. Like the one time we actually had the time, he's like, "This time we're stopping." I said, "Yes, we are." We whipped around the corner, and he had gone for like a week's
Awesome.
camping or something because he wasn't back before I left. I was like, because that's the kind of life I live. I just want to catch up here. So yeah, with so nifty paddle, I agree with you. I think, to me, buying the Novacraft or the Swift, that's where the bucket list aspect comes in. it's the dream. But as I kept saying, and like Tenenbaum here knows very well, and Simone, some of you guys, man, I have wanted to build a cedar strip canoe for years and years and years. It's the kind of thing that I figured I would never be able to do, so I just put it out of my mind. And that's why I shared that Zyla Foxland video, because when I saw it, it reminded me of this desire that I've had for years, and I felt it like just boom right in the gut. Oh, sorry. Did that pop? Sorry. What I meant was that boom right in the gut. Like just I suddenly remembered this, and I've been like daydreaming about it ever since. And now I'm looking at kits and Zyla's uncle, he does guided builds, but they're still expensive as hell because it doesn't reduce the price of the canoe, and that's in American dollars. Like this is like going around and around in my head. And I think I'm just going to win the lottery. I think I'm ready for it now.
And then did you see during the coronavirus, somebody built a canoe out of newspaper and resin and stuck it in the water and got out in the water by any means necessary.
Any means necessary. Did he do like
It's like
fiberglass sheet on it?
Newspaper with resin on top, resin fiberglass. So it was, it was like a paper mache, but it wasn't really paper mache. I watched these birch bark canoe building videos. Have you seen?
Would that not be amazing?
Amazing. And then here in Hawaii, we have the Polynesian canoes.
Are those like dugouts?
Dugouts, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're deeply dug out, and
Really?
so they're very deep trough inside there.
Okay.
I got like 5 or 6 guys in there. I don't know if you've seen. There's people who do surfing with outrigger canoes. I never saw such a thing.
Really?
Yeah, and they were catching waves on it. It looked really dangerous. They said it was really, really frightening.
Is an outrigger one of those that has the thing on the side?
Yeah, the thing on the side that keeps it from tipping over.
Right.
And so the Polynesian canoes either had double holes where they just had 2 that were lashed together, or they put a
the outrigger on.
Outrigger on. I was at Kailua Beach the other day, taking my 70-pound kayak to the beach with a trolley to get it to the water, and I saw this rich guy carrying a little fiberglass one-man outrigger canoe, taking it to the beach. I said, I wish I had that, because it was so light. But some engineer.
Yeah. Tenenbaum, what is there like a traditional take on the canoe or something in Sweden?
There are a variety of small boats that are here that are not exactly canoes. They're somewhere, I would describe them as between a canoe and a rowboat. Nothing that looks quite like a canoe, though. Generally a little bit broader and more like they're rowed rather than paddled. So
Okay.
oars or something like that.
So a little closer to a rowboat, because like we sort of grow up here in Canada, as you can probably back me on, Mr. Baum, with this idea that like the canoe is to Canada what the covered wagon is to the United States. Like we had covered wagons and they had canoes, but they played the same role. The canoe built Canada the way the covered wagon built the United States. But what that means is that you can simultaneously fall into the idea that, well, people have just had canoes everywhere in the world, right?
It's interesting you should mention this
To-
because ever since I got here, I've been asking myself, can I canoe trip in Sweden? And the answer is sort of, because there are lakes,
Yeah.
but there's a bit of a different sort of tradition or culture. There aren't really portages per se, or they're not marked. You'll see a map and it won't have a portage marked on it. So if you want to link together a series of lakes, you sort of have to figure it out yourself. And the Vikings, they did portage. They actually moved boats from one body of water to another. Although for them, it was some of their boats were pretty big. They actually moved huge boats
Mm-hmm.
from
Yep.
one body of water to another. They did crazy, crazy stuff. So the tradition you're describing of traveling the land in a small boat, it wasn't quite the same here. Similar, but not quite the same.
That's good to know because, Steve, I don't know if you know this about me, but Sweden is probably one of the pinnacle of my bucket list items. Gorgeous country. I love the access that you have, like the rules around access to the forest.
Speaking of which, along the lines of the topic, one of the things I've been doing since I got here actually is I've been looking at maps of Finland.
Finland.
Finland is all water.
Yes.
It looks like a canoe tripping paradise. The other thing that's beautiful about it is that there are public camping shelters that are free everywhere.
That's nice.
So I think Finland is sort of on the bucket list.
It looks like New Zealand has those shelters as well, or like cabins. I don't know if you've been watching the Bushcraft Daughter, but she and her dad have been doing sort of some hiking, and they've got these cabins for people to stop at. They call them huts.
Looks like
Yeah.
Finland is as north as the Northwest Territories.
It's
Yeah.
much like Sweden. It's up there.
Yeah.
It's nice to see up north the 60s joined us because that's a channel that any of you who don't watch, check him out, man. He and his wife, they've got this great sort of hot tent. They're making food. You know, one of his videos pops up, and I just, you know what? I make a cup of tea and I just sit there for however long it takes. I'm not sure if he's got his mic and everything set up yet, though, so we're not going to pressure him to say anything quite yet. But
So I had this whole thing that I was trying to get information about people. I like coffee and I like half and half in my coffee, but I want to go canoe camping for like 8 days. And so I can't take half and half with me. And
Which I guess what you want is either condensed milk or powdered milk. Those are your options.
they have powdered
Can you guys
heavy
hear me?
cream that you
yes,
can get.
yes, we can hear you. Are you using that fabulous mic of yours again?
Yeah, for some reason I'm having an issue with my video interface. I'm not sure what it is, but I think I may have just resolved it. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys can hear me loud and clear or not, or it sounds.
5x5.
Yeah,
Um,
5x5. We can totally hear you.
Okay, perfect, awesome, cool.
For those of you who are wondering why I just said that about his mic, Up North of 60 uses the mic that I would love to be using. It's expensive as hell for a guy like me. Did you buy yours in Canada or the States? You bought yours online, right?
No, I actually bought mine in Canada, and it was funny because I tried all of the big retailers across Canada, and nobody had it in stock. And I managed to find a local business there in town, and they had it for a great deal. So I just walked into the store and thought it was the only one they actually had in stock at the moment.
Huh.
And it's been sitting there for about 2 years collecting dust due to the price of it. But as a result, it was actually cheaper than what I would have got through Long and McQuaid if I had to go that option.
Okay.
So it was a good deal.
That's the Shure SM7B. To those of you who are geeky about this stuff, like I am, about 2/3 of the people here know that I went to school to make movies, Steve. So I'm very geeky about things like cameras and mics and stuff like that. I always want to know what someone's using, and I'm part of the way through setting up this live streaming area of mine the way I want it. I need a boom arm for my mic, even if I stick with this one, so that if I'm talking, I get very animated with my hands, and then right, drop your hands to the desk. And right now it's sort of, I mean, I've got a suspension system here, but it's better to have a boom mic so that when I drop my hands to the desk, there's no transference of that sound.
Yes. I'm fiddling with my mic right now because I don't know, something's funny about it.
Well, it sounds fine.
Decidedly low tech this evening.
There it is. Okay.
Traditional Apple earpods.
Yeah, that works too. So we start with like traditional Apple earphones down there. That looks like a classic, like 60s or 70s era mic you've got, Steve. Then this is a Behringer something or rather. And then Mr. Up North is 60 has the sweet mic.
AKG, sort of a boom pull microphone. Dialogue boom pull microphone.
Okay. Up North is 60, man. Like what we're talking about tonight is like outdoorsy bucket list stuff, you know, the dream trip, the dream item, the dream experience. But it kind of seems to me that in some ways you're living that bucket list. You know, I mean, I see the videos of you being up there and you clearly love being up north. Like, are there places like when you go from where you lived out east to a place like that, do you have room to dream about other locations you have, you know, you're dying to camp? Or are you so sort of enamored with where you are that you're still, you know, even years and years later, discovering new things to love about your area?
Yeah, I mean, like living up here in the north has definitely been a dream come true in terms of finding new adventures and you know, having the challenging environment that I live in for sure. But it's kind of a weird paradox because I actually thoroughly enjoy doing van camping on my off season, I guess.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of feel like the ultimate trip for me would be to jump in a van and drive down the California coast, you know, follow the Highway 101 down through Washington, Oregon into California, and then take Highway 10 across the southern U.S. out to Florida, and then maybe up Highway 1 to the east coast of the U.S. So I kind of like the van life as an alternative, I guess. I've always referred to it as my big metal tent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess for Vivian and I living in this environment and, you know, spending most of the time here in the north, when it comes time to travel, we generally like to go down south. And I know that maybe kind of goes against the grain, but you know, once you live in an area for so long, I mean, even though it is as beautiful as what it is, it's always nice to kind of get back to the big city and you know, travel outside of the north. So
yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. Like I make no secret of the fact that I am dying to see the north. Dying to.
yeah.
And I had this opportunity years ago because my stepbrother, right now he's in Edmonton. He's in the Royal Canadian Air Force, but he used to live in Yellowknife because he was flying for First Air.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, man, if you ever have time or, you know, you can get a plane ticket or whatever, come on up. I'll show you around. And I was like, yeah, man. But at that time I was freelancing. So taking time away from my computer meant losing money. So I never did it. And now he's in Edmonton. Yay. You know?
Better than Calgary.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, okay. It's true. Better than Calgary. But so I do, like, I'm a guy
How
who...
would I know? I don't even know. I just live in Hawaii.
Well, the fiddler for my band lives in Calgary. So I spend a lot of time in Calgary. Because, you know, why not fly 4,000 kilometers a couple of times a year? But like, I try very hard to live a no regrets life. I know that that's easier said than done, but that one really bites me sometimes, that I didn't find a way to get up north. You know,
Well, it's not
Yeah.
over yet.
no, life isn't over. That's true. Absolutely. You know, there's still time, but that's a bucket list thing for me.
Yeah, it's one of those things I would highly recommend for anybody who hasn't experienced the Northwest Territories. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful here.
Yeah.
All seasons. I mean, no matter what time of the year you're here, it has something to bring. I mean, if you're up here during, December, January, February, it's going to be the coldest time of the year where you're going to truly experience what a -40 night feels like. But
Yeah.
it's also some of the most spectacular night skies that you can imagine, especially with the Aurora Borealis. And, I've been over to the canvas tent and having a super crisp -35 night, and we have that wood stove crackling on the inside of the tent,
Yeah.
and you step outside and you look up, and the sky is just immense with northern lights and stars. It's just incredibly beautiful. And there's something about the extreme cold where sound travels for such a long distance. So even just the crackling of the snow, you can hear something approaching your tent, or you can hear someone walking way off into the distance. So it's something that I never truly experienced until I actually came to the territories.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend that. And if you want, like a softer version of that, September, October into early fall, the northern lights are beautiful as well that time of the year. And temperatures are obviously not as cold as December, January, but there's something here for everyone. I mean, even now it's we're into middle of July at the moment, and we're in the middle of July at the moment, and we're experiencing 24 hours of daylight. So it's street lights won't come on here until probably the end of August, early September. So yeah.
How north do you have to be
unique.
to see the northern lights? How north do you have to be?
I've heard of people seeing northern lights. I mean, certain times of the year. I mean, even back in Newfoundland. I mean, I think you can be quite far south. It's just how often and the frequency of observing the lights. I mean, obviously, the further north you get, the greater your chances are. Like northern lights for us is like a nightly thing. I mean, I can go out as long as it's clear sky. I can go out pretty much any night and just look up, and like they're there all the time. Some nights are better than others, but for the most part, they're always there. But I even hear like in northern Newfoundland, even in Edmonton, southern, like mid Alberta, there's certain times of the year you can see them. Whereas when you're north, you're pretty much guaranteed to see them all the time.
Even like I spent my formative years in a little French town in Manitoba, like right across the river from Winnipeg. And my mother tells me that one night they saw the northern lights, letting their freak flag fly. They didn't get me up to see it because it was late at night. But I mean, Winnipeg ain't that far north.
Was it during the summer or during the winter?
I don't remember. I don't know. And she doesn't remember either. Which it's too bad. Nifty Paddler tells me, okay, I'm trying to catch up with the side chat. He says, you are literally describing my car and old canoe when I was talking about the beat to hell Jeep with the Grumman on top. It's funny. I love it. Alain says that he spoke to Serge about buying a canoe for his new place, but he has no place. There's the thing, I'm all like, I'm buying a canoe, and then I'm buying another canoe, and then I'm going to build a cedar strip canoe. I don't know where the hell I'd put them. I mean, I got a backyard, but my wife put a freaking pool in that backyard. So where the hell am I going to keep a canoe? I mean, I could keep them at yeah, of course. I could keep them at my mother-in-law's place up in Oka. Now, here's the deal. The Kijiji canoe. Yeah, because that's where I'm going to teach my kid how to, that's where I'm going to acclimate my children to canoeing on Lac de Montagne. But that means that if I take a trip somewhere, I'm adding 45 minutes to get a canoe, 45 minutes back, unless I can just go somewhere from Oka, So it's great to have these things, but yeah, you have to plan where you're going to put them. As I'm sure Tenenbaum knows all of a sudden. Where are you keeping it up at the new place?
I have a garage.
Oh, yeah.
That turned out well.
Hmm.
Until about a week and a half ago, I would have had a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Of course,
Yeah.
until a week and a half ago, it was in my living room. So there you go.
Yeah, I remember that. You showed that. That was the funniest thing, you guys. Like, to me, I had no problem with the canoe being in the living room, but my wife would have. Simon, what's capote in English? Yeah, she would have like seen a canoe lying in the living room and been like, "You're sleeping in that canoe out the back."
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, to me too, to be straight with you, but I'm just, hey, Grace Martin's here. How was it going, Grace? I'm just to correct yourself, Jess. You don't need. Okay, fair enough, Mister Dennis. Alain says, I drove across Canada to the Rockies, then back through the U.S. with my friend Vince, and it's been my favorite trip. So camping in the Rockies is sweet. So he's responding to you, Mr. Up North of 60. By the way, I'm using you guys as, is you guys is even a word, really?
Yes.
I'm using all y'all's.
Use guys.
Use guys.
Y'all.
Use guys as me, reaching back into my ghetto ass upbringing. But I'm using your on-screen names because I don't know how weird you guys get about using your real names online. I put my real name online, so I'm okay with it. But not everyone's that good. So not that good with using their real name. So yeah, he is referring to what you said, Mr. 60. And by the way, that sounds like a really cool. If you've got like a dedicated camping van, I think that changes the road trip in a massive way. Because what we've got is a CX-5 that we can pack full of stuff, and everyone just sits in it, and here we go. And even just driving to the in-laws down in New York is like 7 or 8 hours. By the time you get there, you really want to be out of that car. And so I'm wondering, up north, what? Because your van, it's a camper van, right? Or it's a live-in van. So does that change long trips in any way?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because I just updated on my last live stream towards the end of it, so you may have missed it. But I actually just sold my van 2 weeks ago. I flew down to Vancouver. I was actually doing a live stream maybe about 3 weeks ago, and a random viewer popped on and said that I love your van, sell me your van, and I just made the comment, sure, absolutely, just email me at 60 at whatever, and continue reading through the comments. And before the stream was over, this guy had actually texted me or emailed me and said, I'm seriously interested, here's my phone number, so let's have a chat. So basically him and I had a conversation. We both settled on a price for the van. I flew down to Vancouver and just sold it to him, like a week ago. So the van is gone for now. However, we're going to build something a little bit different. But going back to answer your question, my van was basically just a standard cargo van. It was an extended Chevy Express cargo van with a 6.6 Duramax diesel. Okay. And vans basically only come in 2-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, unless, of course, if you buy the new Mercedes Sprinter van, which is a true 4x4 system. But for the most part, you can only buy 2-wheel or all-wheel drive. So I wanted something that was 4-wheel drive that could be conducive to my living up here in the territories. So I actually sourced out a company down in Kamloops who installed a custom 4-wheel drive system. And then I added the Line-X paint, the Line-X spray on the outside, done the full color conversion, and then I put some pretty heavy-duty bumpers and off-road equipment on. We spray foam insulated the interior of the van, put some wall paneling up, and put a queen-size bed on the back of it. The bed was modular, and that I designed because I wanted to keep the van as utilitarian as possible. So if I wanted to use it as a cargo van, I could, or if I wanted to put my quad on the back and go hunting with it, I could. And we basically just turned it into a metal tent, and we took all of our camping gear. We put our coolers, we put our our cookware, our sleeping bags, a barbecue, and a propane stove in the back, and these little action packers, and we just pretty much travel around, just camp out of our van. So the van was really just just a vehicle for travel and just a place to sleep at the end of the night. So the idea is that we would arrive somewhere, we'd get out, we'd explore the area, spend the entire day outside, traveling, sightseeing. Then at the end of the night, we would go back and jump in our van and put up our little blinds and just stealth camp in cities. Like we literally slept in that thing down off, like, you know, Hollywood Boulevard. I slept in that thing in Brooklyn. I slept in it in Harlem. I mean, we literally traveled around the entire country and just like stealth camped in these, just as if it was a vehicle parked on the side of the road. So that's kind of got its own romantic idea behind it as well.
That works though. That's cool. Yeah, I like that story.
Super fun.
Simon says that capoter means to freak out, by the way. So that's cool. I like that. I've never done something like that epic a road trip. What you're saying about sort of essentially doing sort of, you know, circling the US like that sounds like a really cool concept to me, because what the parts of the US I've seen, right? I've seen a lot of New York. I've seen a little bit of LA. I did not like LA. You know, I've seen a little bit of Arizona and Nevada. I've seen a little bit of like Washington State. I really want to see more of that. And each of these areas is so different from the other that I think that long ass trip would be absolutely enchanting. But I like, how long would that take? I wonder. Because when you're not having to worry about finding a hotel, then that saves you time, right? You just stealth camp.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2015, we done the longest road trip of all the ones we've done. The trip in 2015, we done about 22,000 kilometers one summer, and it took us about 12 weeks to do, so almost 3 months.
Okay.
And we left Yellowknife and we actually drove back to St. John's, Newfoundland, and then we spent some time in Newfoundland visiting my family.
Another place I'd like to see.
Newfoundland. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was amazing. And then we drove down after we left Newfoundland. We drove down the eastern seaboard of the U.S. down as far as North Carolina, and then we drove kind of across in a diagonal back to Northern California, and back through British Columbia, then up through the Northwest Territories. But in the meantime, we said that we would like to complete that trip and actually go all the way down to Florida and then kind of skirt along the bottom, you know, down through like Louisiana and now through, you know, Arizona, Texas, and then enter into Southern California. But I figure for that trip, I think about 4 months ideally would be, if someone could have 4 months to do that entire trip, I think that would be plenty of time. And like you mentioned, where you're not confined to hotel rooms, you can kind of travel as you please. So we would do things that we would call distance days, where we would just drive through a portion of the country that was not that exciting and just get through it in 2 days, and then maybe spend 2 or 3 days in a more suitable area.
So if you were to do this trip again, because one of my bucket list things is to actually meet another freaking YouTuber and maybe do a collab, or maybe just sit and have a drink or a coffee or something and shoot, you know, talk shop. If you were to do that kind of trip, would you meet up with other YouTubers? Like, you know, in Florida, you know, there's Hike with Mike. He lives in Florida and he's very knowledgeable about the swamps and stuff, you know, and there's all kinds of these guys all down, you know, the West Coast. There's a whole bunch of guys in places like New York State or Michigan, or, you know, like, would you try to work something like that in, or do you sort of keep the YouTube section and your private life completely separate?
That's a great question. I kind of feel like initially the year that we went, so like we've done like a few of these road trips before, and there was one year in particular that I was uploading videos in live time, and as a result of that, I would bump into random people all the time. Like they almost like they were following my journey, and they kind of knew I was in the area. So people were literally keeping an eye out for me, and because of the vehicle I was driving, it was unique. So it would stand out. There's a little bit of safety concern with doing that. So safety is kind of something I would be cautious of. not so much for me. I would feel maybe more so for Vivian. Like I think she may feel a bit uncomfortable with
Yeah.
it. But for the most part, I mean, I do have some friends within the YouTube community, you know, who I have met up with, and you know, they've been super cool guys and girls, and you know, had a great time with it. But I think if I was going to do that, I would probably want to kind of pre-arrange it beforehand and
Yeah.
maybe reach out and kind of schedule a time together, as opposed to just, hey, I'm in the area, who wants to meet up? You know, that's a little bit of a risky move to do. I don't hold back on my comment section so sometimes. So, you know, sometimes if I am challenging ideas in my comment section, you know, people can become very aggravated online, and I've definitely received some interesting emails and and messages over the years. So I would want to be cautious in doing that. But yeah,
the thing is, you know, like as soon as you've got a certain number of viewers, you're almost a public figure in some ways. You know, I don't mean at the kind of sub numbers I have, but you know, you're out there, you're making videos, people are reacting. There's always going to be a bit of a safety factor. If like someone just shows up one day, that would make me uncomfortable as hell. Whereas I would meet with almost anyone that, you know, we sort of chat beforehand. Okay, you're cool, I'm cool. Let's plan to meet because I'll be swinging through whatever the Bronx, hopefully on this date. You know, let's meet up. Maybe shoot a little collab. Maybe just go to whatever Starbucks or whatever cafe there is, or have a go to a bar or something for a drink. But the last thing I want is someone to just pop up in my face. You know, that's the last thing I want.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you know, like, it's interesting because I mean, you'd be surprised how often that actually happens. Especially when I'm traveling in my van, it almost always happens. I'll be somewhere and someone will walk right up to me and be like, "Hey, I know you," and then, you know, they'll start talking to me, and like, you know, that's fine. But at the same time, it's you know, when you're out of public sometimes, and you know, I mean, if you have, you know, like you say, like, you know, X number of thousands of viewers, or you know, tens of thousands of views on a video, a lot of people recognize you, and obviously, like, you don't know who they are, but they know who you are, so that can put you at a disadvantage sometimes. So I kind of feel like with the van that we had built, it was such a like a notable van that anybody who's seen that thing, I mean, I've literally had people on the highway like pull up and tailgate me, and like pull out next to me and pull up and like point and sum up, and you know, I follow you on YouTube, and so there's been a few times where it's like, holy crap, this is a bit of a safety issue here.
Yeah.
So
makes you feel like Casey Neistat, right?
I don't know about that. No. But I mean, there's been a few times where things were a little bit sketchy, to say the least. You know, out in public, and you know, people's approached us, and it's kind of been like, you're just not getting a good vibe from it. But yeah, like, I think, yeah, I mean, I would not have any issues with, you know, meeting up with people and, you know, doing a collab. But like I say, I would definitely have to pre-plan it, so I know it's going to happen, and then make arrangements for it, and kind of vet the person beforehand, and maybe have a conversation. I mean, like, even with this guy who I sold my van to, I wasn't even sure if this was going to be a legitimate transaction or not. So I had to speak with him first and kind of vet him to get a vibe from him, and it obviously to be like a legit guy. But I mean, you always need to be cautious when you're doing those things.
Yeah. Steve, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Because you were saying that, you know, you had an Ontario canoe trip as a bucket list item. How much of the, what do they call it, contiguous United States? You know, the sort of the continental part, the part that's all like, how much of that? Yeah, the lower 48, I think. How much of that part of the states have you been to?
Oh, I've been to a lot of states. Somebody had posted on Facebook about, you know, how many U.S. states have you visited? I think I've been to about half of the states. I've never been to Alaska, and haven't been to like Montana. I haven't been to those places, but I've been through a lot of the South. I've been through Kentucky, Ohio. I've been to Florida.
And have you either canoe camped or camped any of those?
Yeah. See, when I was a little kid, we lived in Minnesota, and my parents took us to this little camp called Camp du Nord, I remember. And I think we went twice, actually. Once when we lived there, and then we went back because they loved it so much. So I actually have photographs of my parents with 3 children, a baby on my mom's back in a canoe.
Hmm.
So, and I remember picking blueberries and seeing pictographs, Indian pictographs. Um, so I had these fond memories of that, and then I went. I'm sorry, but why did you ask?
Popped into my head.
Oh, yeah.
Just-
So we did a lot of camping, a lot of exploring and things when I was growing up, and so it's interesting that you should mention it because my siblings, when my parents had their 50th wedding anniversary, all 3 of us, we all said something about camping. That was like a really important thing in our childhood. So it was really important to me, and I wanted to share that with my kids. And guess what? My kids hated camping. It was like really, really, really important to me. Like I really wanted to share that thing with them. They had a good upbringing and everything, but they just really didn't like camping. So it was kind of depressing for me for a while, and I sold my tent. I gave away my tent and gave away almost all of my camping things. And then I finally looked on YouTube and discovered canoe camping again. Oh, that's a thing. I never knew there was such a thing called outfitters. What is that?
Right.
So
See, for me, before hitting adulthood, any camping I had ever done outside of like the Royal Canadian Air Cadets was in British Columbia, because I used to sort of have this really schizophrenic, two-faced life where I would go to school in Montreal here, and then the day after school was out, jump on a plane and go to my dad's place in Vancouver. Until like the day before school started again, and then I'd come back. And so I feel that if you look at where you do most of your growing up as a kid and as a teenager, school year versus summertime, I see myself as someone who really grew up in Vancouver because of the life experiences aspect. And so whenever I hear about someone who lives in one area of a country that is not an area that many of the, say, in your case, Americans that I know live in, I wonder, because Hawaii is pretty far from the mainland United States.
Really, really far away.
So just because of the distance and what I imagine a plane ticket must cost, whenever I'm speaking to someone from Hawaii, now you're the second person who I've spoken to on my live streams from Hawaii. Like, I wonder how often you people get to the mainland, or how much you've seen of the main, because man, it's far.
It's far away, but on the other hand, it's a plane ticket, right?
Yeah.
And so if you live in California, how much of the country have you seen? If you lived in Kansas City, how much have you seen? Maybe you've been to a few places, right? I actually traveled a lot. There's a lot of military people here, and they've traveled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of people don't ever, they've never left the island. But that's true in a lot of places too.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's different now after airlines got invented. People can just hop on a plane and go somewhere, and it's not that much difference hopping on a plane here. It's a little bit longer of a flight to get to California. But once you get to the West Coast, yeah, it's a different feeling. Like, for example, camping in Hawaii, it's mostly beach camping.
Yep.
So there's a whole thing about that. I have a relative that I don't want to go camping. That's like homeless. Why would I do that? It's like what homeless people do, right?
Yeah.
And here on this island, the Oahu, the main the main island, the most populous island.
Mhm.
There's like, I think, 31 campsites for 1 million people.
Wow.
And that's the city and county
Yeah.
campsite. And there's state campsites. So, and there's you can go camping, but it's like I went online try to get a camping permit the last 2 Fridays, and it's online permits, and the instant it opens, they're all gone.
Yeah, of course.
They're all gone. And I was like trying to like get online and log in and everything, and just at the minute that it went on, they were all gone.
Mm.
If I didn't click just the right way.
Yeah.
So it's nice going on a map of like Algonquin and seeing, the hundreds and different campsites. And I suppose it gets pretty crowded on Canoe Lake though, during the summer.
It does. There are no campsites on Canoe itself, but the first portage out of Canoe into Joe is like it's like a highway.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
That's like the route that has the least portages that everybody knows about, right? I was going to do the what was it called, the Lavier Loop, but I think Dixon Lake is closed because of a
Dixon has algae blooms.
algae bloom. Yeah.
2 years in a row. Lavier is just gorgeous though, so it's worth the effort if you can make it out there. But you got to brave the long portage.
Yeah, and so I just don't know if I'm going to bother if you can't even camp on Lavier. So I'm thinking of doing Lake Louisa and going to Phipps Lake and that area, Ragged Lake area.
Very pretty. Ragged is very pretty as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice down there. And you can start through Smoke, which is a little less busy than Canoe, but more or less in the same place.
Yeah. So they have motorboats on that lake, huh?
Yeah, and a few cottages left too as well.
Steve, Alain is asking how COVID is treating Hawaii, if that's affecting your camping at all.
It's we've been pretty good over here. The cases are rising again now, but we shut down pretty well compared to the rest of the United States, mostly because we just really didn't listen to our president at all. Not to get into politics. Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
but
sorry.
if we were not online, I would be.
Yeah, there'd be some swear words. So yeah, it's mostly just people in Hawaii. People are kind of compliant. It's a cultural thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So people aren't quite as individualistic as some Americans, where you're invading my right to spread germs,
to die.
Yeah. So it's been pretty good, and people have, and also we're isolated too. So they made a rule that you have to do a 14-day quarantine. So that put a lot of people off coming, and so it's destroyed the economy here because it's a tourist economy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can see that. Actually, up north of 60, how are things up there? Because I mean, you guys are attached to the rest of the country, but
Yeah, we've been very proactive from the beginning of COVID. I mean, not me, but I mean, like the territories. I guess the public health system within the territories.
Okay.
We're very proactive from the beginning, and we only actually had 5 cases in the territories, and that was at the very beginning. And they shut the borders down and implemented a mandatory 2-week isolation. So if you travel into the territories, you have to isolate. And there's no tourism at the moment here, so you can only enter the territories if you're a resident. And non-essential travel is not recommended. And prior to leaving the territories, you have to fill out an application with a isolation plan, such as I had to last week when I came back from Vancouver.
Yeah.
So I'm just about finished up my 2-week isolation. I'm on day 10. So I have 4 more days left, and then I'm free once again.
Yeah, I remember the live stream, the last live stream that I was listening to, which I'm now figuring that I missed the last one, so it was the one before. I remember you were on isolation. I believe that Quebec, the interprovincial borders, Quebec and Ontario, Quebec and New Brunswick are still closed. Because, I mean, as some of you guys here know, that Quebec has been a disaster, an absolute disaster. It's been the epicenter of the Canadian COVID crisis, and my neighborhood in my city has been the epicenter of that. So it's been horrible. But you know, I'm okay going crazy from cabin fever. You know. Oh, hey, it's 11 o'clock. I don't believe it. Okay, so we're done for the night, and I will see everyone next week. I hope next week is if all goes well, it's an interview episode, which will mean an hour of interview, and then I will open it up for an hour for people who want to come in and have questions for the interviewee or want to share their own stories.
Awesome. When is that?
It's next Tuesday. I'm always on Tuesdays, 9 to 11 Montreal time. That's was that Eastern Standard Time. So, up north of 60. What are you? 2 hours behind me or 3 hours behind me?
It's 11 o'clock.
It's
Toronto.
9 p.m., so 2 hours.
Okay, yeah. Where I am right now, it's 11
Mom.
p.m.
Hawaii,
So,
it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
okay. So, 3 to 5 o'clock Hawaii time. For where Tenenbaum is in Sweden, I don't know how you do this, man.
It's 3 to 5 in the morning here.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
Between Steve and I, we've got 12 time zones covered.
Fly
So-
over the North Pole and say hi to each other.
Yeah. I do want to say to Fox, I'm glad to see that you got your replacement stove for the one that got yoinked. For those of you who don't know, Fox had lost a lot of stuff in a thieving incident recently. So Fox, man, I'm glad to hear that you're getting your stuff back. So thanks to everyone who hung out. Canoe Hound, you got Brandon, Fox, you guys on screen. It's always nice to hear from you guys. Alain, get Serge on here next week, okay? Just great group we had. Grace, Jackie. I think Jackie's gone. I think half the people are gone at this point. But I'm gonna go get ready for bed, and I'll see you guys
Aloha,
next
oi.
week. Everybody, stay freaking healthy. All right, everyone, stay healthy, and then meet me back here next week. See you later.
Hey,